Welcome back, everybody, to the fifth and final episode of our Spaceship Controller in Unity tutorial series. In this one, we're going to handle our camera switching. So we're going to create that script. We'll create a public enum called camera view. We'll have our cockpit and our external view. I'm going to make a header for our input. I'll make a serialized field for our input action reference, call this toggle view action. Then we'll make a header for our cameras, and we're going to have two serialized Cinemachine cameras here, one for the cockpit and one for the external. Then I'll make a header for priority settings. We'll have a serialized INT called active priority, which I'm going to set to 20, and another one called inactive priority, which I'll set to 10. Then I'm going to have a header for starting view, and we'll have a serialized camera view, which we'll call current view, and we'll set that to camera view.external. On enable and disable, we'll have our usual shenanigans for setting up input actions. In our start method, we'll apply the current view. Then we'll make that private void on toggle view performed, where we'll say input action.callback context, and in here we'll say switch view. Then that switch view method is going to be public, and we'll say if current view is camera view.cockpit, set the view to be the opposite, the external view. Otherwise, do the opposite, change it to the cockpit view. Then we'll make the set view method, which is going to be public as well. It'll take as an argument the camera view. We'll call that new view. We'll say current view equals new view, and we'll apply the current view. Now let's make that apply current view method. We'll say if cockpit camera is null or external camera is null, return. Then we'll make a bool called cockpit is active equals current view is camera view.cockpit. Cockpit camera.priority equals cockpit is active active priority inactive priority. Then we'll say the exact same thing for the external camera.priority, but reverse the inactive and the active. And that is it for the script. So we can just drag and drop that onto our ship, and then we can drag in these references. So we need to actually make this input action. I'm going to call this toggle camera. And for the binding, I am just going to set this to R on PC. And for gamepad, I'll set it to something like square if you're using a PlayStation controller. Button west on the gamepad is the one I'm talking about. Then we can save this asset up and close it. And we can drag in that input reference and drag in the cameras. Now we don't actually have a cockpit camera yet. So I'm going to duplicate the external camera, rename it cockpit camera. And I'm going to change this to hard lock to target. And I'm going to change the damping to 0.25. Now I'm not happy with this position, so let's drag and drop the cockpit. Okay, I'm not happy with that either. So I'm going to create an empty object and call this cockpit target. And go into the scene view here, and well, that's why I'm not happy. It's way too close, way too low. I'm going to reposition it over here and drag that in as our target. And that is immediately better looking. So now that you've got it set up, make sure you drag in the cockpit camera, and that should be everything you need. So let's hit play mode and see how this looks. So it automatically switched to the external view, and that is really slow. That is not going to work for me. Let's make that a lot faster. Let's close out of this, go to our main camera, and you'll see the Cinemachine brain at the bottom here. And then down at the bottom of that, you can see the ease in out. I'm going to change this from 2 seconds to like 0.25. Let's hit play again and see how that looks. Way snappier. That's pretty cool. So just like that, without a whole lot of work, we now have the ability to switch back and forth between our cockpit and our external view. And it's really quick and snappy. And that's it, folks. That is it for this series. Everything you've seen me do here is basically the gist of what I did for what I'm now showing you, which is a VR game that I've been working on for the past year or so, which features that same level of sim flight controls versus arcadey flight controls. Showing you this here at the end is hopefully a source of inspiration to see that everything that we just did here could be applied to something that looks a lot cooler than a bunch of gray blocks and glowing blobs. Everything I ever decide to teach all of you is based on my own experimentations with games and styles that I'd like to make and that I've been working on my own time in my own games. And I think it's cool to pass that knowledge on and hopefully make things easier for future people who want to make similar types of games. Thanks so much if you watched all of this all the way through. I really appreciate you. And if you hope to see more videos like this, more series like this, please consider subscribing on YouTube and on Patreon. I very much appreciate it, and I couldn't do this without all of you who do support the channel.